Brief word from race control from VSR Phoenix. We have a 3-minute delay in order to fix some server difficulties. Please bear with. The stream will resume shortly. Thank you. Welcome then, after short technical difficulties, to round 13 and 14 of VSR Phoenix Season 7 here at Donington Park. I, of course, am Regan Clark, and as I mentioned, you join us from the fantastic jewel of the MSV lineup, Donington Park. Of course, founded originally in 1931 and then reopened in 1977, Donington Park very nearly became one of the trading hands of the home of the British Grand Prix. It held its one and only Formula One race in 1993 at the European Grand Prix, of which we saw one of the greatest opening laps in motorsports history, courtesy of Ayrton Senna. Donington Park, like I said, nearly gained its hand at the sort of secondary home of the British Grand Prix, trading hands with mainstay Silverstone, but due to the 2008 financial crisis, missed out on its opportunity to rise up to Formula One. In the modern day, though, it's the home of British GT, British Superbikes and British touring cars, so it's not short for clientele by any stretch of the imagination, and for today, it is the second of two available sprint rounds in this championship. Of course, the last one happening back on the 15th of January, a double sprint in Zolder, of which Just Boris went on to go from pole to win in both instances. As you can see, he's right behind at the moment. Hayden Puttock, the first driver onto the track here for the start of Quali 1. Having a look at the sort of qualifying schedule, as it were, a 10-minute qualifying followed by a 30-minute race, and then vice versa for Quali 2 and Race 2. So very short stuff coming into this round of the championship. It's going to be very quick fire stuff for Hayden Puttock as he takes the first on the field here. It'll be our default time, of which all of the times will be compared to going into qualifying. Very short on the trails then is Just Boris and Wishful Winnings. And speaking of, having a look inside these qualifying predictions coming into the first qualifying session, of course this will reflect into the second quali as well. Just Boris predicted with a 125.960 is for pole position, ahead of Wishful Winnings, who is in his highest qualifying predicted position of his career thus far, second with a 126.555. Blue Frog third with ETE Geels in fourth, Elite Cassie in fifth, Soviet Mario sixth, and Tyler Vermack in seventh. Now I want to draw your attention to that gap between third and seventh. That is about 0.147 of a second there between all of those positions, third all the way down to seventh. So very razor thin stuff here at Donington. VSR Pete predicted at 8th. Boy Shea, after his debut at the Laguna Seca circuit in last round, is predicted at 9th. And VSR Grizz predicted in 10th. We're about to see here one driver who missed out on his option to be in the qualifying predictions is not Tyler Vermack, sorry, it's Hayden Puttock. Tyler Vermack is in the top 10 predicted for that. We're going to look at the championship standings as well as we see Hayden Puttock crossing the line. Just Boris right behind him as we get on to our flying laps here. Now we can see Elite Cassie is the first to have set a valid lap of 127.862. And Regent setting these provisionally second fastest time by 0.4 of a second. Right now, quite a few drivers struggling to get those times in. We see a new wave now. Smiler and Dollar up cross the line third and fourth. That's actually was fourth and fifth now as Antion crosses the line for third. Then Tyler Vermack going into the provisional pole position there after our first wave of lap times. Of course, we still yet to see the likes of Hayden Puttock, Just Boris, or Wishful Winnings. Now we see Wadenator crossing the line as well as Grizz. Grizz goes fifth. Wadenator goes second fastest. ETE Geos goes sixth fastest there in the 57. It's a very quick and abrupt entry in a qualifying today. Not a lot of time to wait around and build into it. These drivers are going hell for leather right off the bat. So Wadenator third. Elite Cassie now fourth. Pete crosses the line for fifth. Soviet Mario goes fastest in the number 26. A 127.260 puts him provisionally at pole position. We're about to see, though, Hayden Puttock get down towards turn 12 at Goddard's to round out his first flying lap, then his first valid flying lap. The Honda down towards the line. A brand new livery, I should remind you as well. A yellow-clad Honda NSX for this round. He goes fastest. Let's see what Boris retaliates with as he crosses the line after him and goes, by the looks of it there, not onto the timing charts. The 999 struggling to set a time. Meanwhile, Elite Cassie goes second fastest. Wishful Winnings is in third. Soviet Mario now down to fourth. And that makes fifth with the introduction there of the Blue Frog, who now goes third fastest. Whilst we check to see our times on the chart here, we'll go on board with a potential champion to be, that being Just Boris in the 999 McLaren. Now getting a bit of a perspective on the career he's shared in thus far over the course of Season 7. It's been quite a grand one to say the least. Of course, has ran both the 999 and the 93 as of round 9 in memoriam of Hudara 93. His best result was P1, of which he attained in rounds 1 through 6, round 9 through 10, and round 12. His worst result was a DNF at round 8 at Bathurst. He has a win rate of 75%, one of the highest we've ever seen on record, with a pole rate of 50%, having attained 6 of 12 pole positions over the course of the championship. Heading into round 13 and 14, these statistics, of course, are subject to change. Now, the gap that he has to try and find at the end of round 14 is 200 points, with only 200 left up for grabs here in this championship. He has to try and force out a gap that he currently holds to ETE Geels of about 172 points up to 200 in order to cement his title of Season 7 champion. As he gets across the line, he's 0.2 of a second off of Hayden Puttock's time, and what was briefly second becomes third with the introduction of Wishful Winnings yet again in the 23, causing havoc up at the front row, now in second. Elite Cassie also having crossed the line, couldn't find enough time in his last lap for a position change. Is going on for another with the Mercedes. We'll see what he can do there. Running the Mercedes of what I believe is now, my GT knowledge isn't great, but I believe that was the same livery that Raffaele Marciello drove in the GT World Cup. I do distinctly remember those colours. It might not be Marciello, it might be some of his teammates, but I do distinctly remember Marciello driving that colour and livery. Nonetheless, before I embarrass myself, let's get on board with Blue Frog here at the end of his coming lap. Round turn 12 we go then. We wanted to try and get a full tour through of Donington Park, though I believe many people in the know don't really need the introduction to such a fantastic circuit as this. It's right up there in the holy trinity of British circuits, up there with Silverstone and Brands Hatch for some of the most iconic on the British Isles. It is a fantastic little circuit, to say the least. I've been there personally myself for the British Endurance Championship last year. It was fantastic to go down there and really take in the atmosphere. It is something quite different to larger tracks like Silverstone or smaller tracks like Brands Hatch. It sits right there in the Goldilocks zone. It's a really lovely place to go. If you haven't been already, I would highly recommend it. Very easy to access right alongside East Midlands Airport and available via the M1. Just Boris then crosses the line and separates that gap from 2 tenths down to 1. Still not enough for pole position. Hayden Puttock, despite not appearing on our prediction charts until very, very late in here before we could actually take another data packet coming into this round. Of course, the one that we had came in at 2 o'clock today, that being March 26th. Right now, Hayden Puttock looks to take a surprise pole position here in qualifying 1. Now, of course, we've got 2 races up for grabs today, 2 30-minute races on the horizon. Just Boris isn't going to be feeling too much pressure right now as he's quite some distance ahead up the field from ETE Geos. And speaking of, let's finally get a look at our championship standings through all classifications here as we get down towards the end of qualifying. Boris with 633 points is leading far and away by 170, I think it was 172 points to ETE Geos with 461. Soviet Mario in third with 417. Funky Fish with 344. Oatsy in fifth with 340. Blue Frog right behind him with 322 points, makes sixth position. Pete in seventh with 311 points. Regent in eighth with 305. Tyler Vermack in ninth with 279. And VSR Twiglet in 10th with 252. Now, if we want to get into division rankings, obviously, as we've seen up at the front, it is getting eerily thin now. The gap to where Boris can no longer be mathematically caught in this championship. ETE Geos' chances of clinching a championship are very, very slim. Of course, ETE Geos is a previous time champion here in VSR, having the pleasure of having won Season 5. He went a season without another championship title, was hunting down championship number 2. Had it not been for Just Boris's dominant spur of race wins, I think it very much could have been in the bag of ETE Geos. Boris now going up to pole position by that 10th of a second that Hayden Puttock once held on to. So it looks like the 999 will be on for his 7th pole position this season. So this is truly remarkable stuff. The odds up in the air is a 1 in 2 chance that Boris could have took pole position today. It'll be the same story going into Quali 2. So if you're a betting man, there's your odds. Boris getting down towards the line as Hayden Puttock remains in the pits. Boris takes a trip on the grass there after the S's. That brings an end to his qualifying run. But I'm sure he'll be happy with pole position for the imminent arrival of race 1 here. Looking on that calendar again, it'll be round 13 we're looking at first, then round 14 before we round things out at the end of this evening. Of course, then the week thereafter brings our last endurance round at the Nürburgring N24 layout, and then the season finale at round 16 the week after on the 9th of April at Suzuka in Mie Prefecture, Japan, to kick off the final round of the championship. But right now, it's just Boris on pole position. We'll get a quick rundown of the grid here at the end of qualifying. The number 44 just down towards the line now, finishing things off. Hayden Puttock eerily close to pole position, but just not close enough to Just Boris. That's his 7th career pole in Season 7 of VSR. Fantastic stuff by the 999. So as we wait to see the grid form up here, over the course of the coming formation lap, we'll of course discuss division rankings. I think we just ran out of time before the end of this qualifying session. It really did breeze past for us today here, Quali 1. Only 10 minutes. And nearly 9 cars there. If you count about 200ths of a second, nearly 9 cars inside 1 second of one another at the end of Quali 1. That's fantastic stuff. So let's wait for our grid to form up here before we begin discussing not only the rundown here for round 13 of the championship, but its division rankings. I've had a few issues with getting the server up and running today. We had to briefly reset, which put a bit of a hamper on us being able to bring you coverage dead on around the 7:30 mark. We did have to give it a few minutes there. Fortunately, everything's back up and running. We'll just wait to see the grid form up before we get a rundown for round 13 of VSR Season 7. So finally, we get the full rundown here at Donington Park for our first of 2 sprint races today. 30 minutes long, of course, taking a look at the regulations coming into this. That was one of the news segments. We'll discuss that in a moment's time. 2 30-minute races coming up today. Only 25 points available for the race winner, so half points. 50 points in total for the end of these 2 coming rounds. And as far as we know, it's an open-ended pit strategy as well, so plenty to keep on the horizon. Just Boris starts from pole position. Hayden Park joins him on the front row with Honda. The 313 looking to fight the 999 down towards Redgate at turn 1. Wishful Winnings makes 3rd. And on the second row alongside him is Elite Cassie NL making 4th. Tyler Vermack rounds out our top 5. Wade Nater in 6th. Regent 7th. Blue Frog in 8th. ETE Geels in 9th. And Boy Shea on his second race in VSR Season 7 makes 10th. Which is a fantastic result. Up and coming there, competing from the silver category. T. Whitey with Aston Martin in 11th. We also saw him make his debut last round at Laguna Seca. So up and coming for both the 7 and the 67. They'll be starting in close proximity to one another. VSR Twiglet up the order with Lexus in 12th position ahead of VSR Oatsy. Hin Hin Pappy in 14th position with Ford is ahead of VSR Funky Fish, who rounds out our top 15. Antion 16th, Pete 17th, Grizz 18th, Smiler 19th, Dollar Up in 20th, Abok 21st, Aussie 22nd, Taz in 23rd, and Jaco 14 rounds out a 24-car grid here for 2 30-minute sprint races. Now, I want to get a quick gander at the balance of performance. Of course, we mentioned qualifying predictions. What is that? Without the BOP for today, actually shows that we're at Misano, which is an oversight on my end. Let's just get rid of that entirely. So, looking at the balance of performance today, Lexus loses 36 kilos, Ferrari losing 34 in the 488. So, Rafing, if he was to be competing today, would be properly relishing in that. The McLaren 720S losing 17 kilos, Ferrari's 296 losing 14, Honda losing 7 in the NSX, the Porsche team losing 3 kilos in the 992, Aston Martin gaining 8, Ford gaining 9, and BMW gaining a whopping 20 kilos. That's the highest ballast penalty they've taken all season long. This is definitely going to be a tough round for the furthest BMW up the order, that being in 8th position, Blue Frog in the number 61, one of 2 BMWs competing in this race, the other one being VSR Abok down in 21st position. BMW, who are normally one of the more dominant manufacturers in this championship, are really taking a bit of a backseat today. Blue Frog's got his hands full down in 8th, is really going to have to push to get in some solid results today. Of course, he's got 2 races to make that possible. So taking us away is just Boris from pole position onto our formation lap. Then for the sprint round, first race of 2 today, round 13 of the championship, as we slowly get away. And as we do, let's discuss the division rankings. Of course, we just discussed gold, where that gap is getting very, very close to a solidified championship run for just Boris. And further down the order, Soviet Mario's slowly closing in on ETE Geels for a potential second place clinch by the end of this championship. In the silver category, things are ever livelier. Only 4 points separating Funky Fish and Oatsy, the 2 Aston Martins up at the front row. And separated by only 33 points from first to third is VSR Pete, who is slowly gaining on the 2 Astons, as they have only few rounds left in this championship to wrap things up in the silver category. I do believe we could even see it take all the way to Suzuka round 16 before we see a proper conclusion to the silver championship fight. And then down in the bronze category, what used to be a close affair between Antion and Smiler has now divided by quite some way, nearly I think over 40 points there, 48 points between Smiler and Antion. Coming into this round of the championship, Antion looks to be taking a decisive bronze tier victory. by the end of this championship. Could even try to open the gap up before Suzuka, though I don't believe possible for today. That gap still has to be quite wide in order to secure the championship this early, with still considering this race next and the next 2 races after that, 4 races before the end of Season 7. As we get up out of McLean's, we briefly got the time to discuss the news, and I believe you saw one of the funniest stories that crossed my desk recently, and it was something so bizarre that we just couldn't not cover it here on TRTN, and that was out of the world of gaming news, as Polyphony Digital, in their most recent add-on to Gran Turismo 7, have added the 2001 Renault Kangoo. Now, this is a bizarre thing to have crossed my desk. Of course, it now joins the Aston Martin V8 Vantage and Mazda CX-30 crossover in what is a bizarre trio pack for the latest update for Gran Turismo 7. And honestly, it was just such a bizarre bit of news. Not really much else I can provide to you besides the fact that, yes, they are, and you're not mistaken, it's not AI, it's not generated imagery. They are, in fact, adding a 1.2-litre people carrier to Gran Turismo 7. Of course, Gran Turismo has always been the celebration of the variety of the automotive world, celebration of all cars, no matter the size, brand, or series. But honestly, it's just bizarre to see them keep that mentality going, heading this far in on PS5. It's just a fantastic little story to bring to your attention. As we get down towards turn 12, we're going to have to raffle these off pretty quickly in British Touring Car news. James Dorland joins the Toyota Gazoo Racing Team for 2025. The most recent rumours coming out of Formula 1 is Yuki Tsunoda is set to replace Liam Lawson at Red Bull. That comes courtesy of Dutch publication De Telegraaf. And then lastly, our last bit of news, Pascal Wehrlein, the Formula E champion from Season 11, is set to join Porsche in the number 4 at 24 Hours of Le Mans. We've not much more time to discuss, though, as the race is about to start. Down towards the line here for round 13 of the championship. Without further ado, one of 2 races today. We're green and racing here in Donington for the first time of 2. 30 minutes on the clock here, and a great start by the front row already. You can see Hayden Puttick having to try and take things the long way around town. Just couldn't outpace the McLaren down towards turn 1. Wishful Winnings already side by side with Elite Cassie NL as we head down towards turns 2 and 3. The Craner curves brings us quickly into the old hairpin. Elite Cassie very nearly getting the position up on Wishful Winnings, but the Mustang holds third. So looking down the order, we can see already that's contact down the line. VSR Antion has been spun around. So is the number 7. That's Boyche, who had a really strong qualifying session. That's all gone by the wayside there, down at turn 4. So that's the first of our major incidents today. We're looking on board at the moment with Hayden Puttick as he's 0.3 of a second away from Just Boris as we exit McLean's. Behind him is that battle for third about to kick off between Wishful Winnings and Elite Cassie. VSR Dollar up, slowing down there. There goes Soviet Mario up to 18th. Aussie right on his tail with Taz following in suit as we go heading down towards the S's. This is all for 19th position. The Aston to the inside. Aussie goes through. Number 7 into more trouble. I think that might be the end of the line here at round 13 for Boyche. And that is a mighty shame. They had a grand qualifying and it just all came apart in that opening lap. Meanwhile, we're seeing some great side-by-side action with Aussie and Dollar up down here in 19th and 20th. The Aston and the McLaren joined very, very closely by the BMW and Mustang of Taz and Abok down in 21st and 22nd. Aussie goes wide at turn 12. We want to try and get a look up front at the moment. Right now, it's looking to be very exciting battling here. We're seeing with VSR Pete as he goes side by side with Soviet Mario for 17th position down into Redgate. Number 77 has got a silver championship to try and compete for here, but is being really put through the ring around turn 1. Sold a dummy there by the number 26. Looking inside our top 5, this is the perspective of the Mercedes there as the Mustang in front of Wishful Winning starts to close the gap to second. Hayden Puttick could be under imminent pressure then by Wishful Winnings as Elite Cassie is slowly being reeled in by the dual Ferrari pair in 5th and 6th, that being Tyler Vermack and Regent in the number 22 and number 420, the blue and red Ferrari. Seeing here T. Whitey up into 9th ahead of Wade Nater. We do want to quickly catch that battle going on between Puttick and Wishful Winnings as it looks to get ever closer. As we try and get on board with them here. Of course, menu navigation's never been the strong suit of ACC. We're on board with Wishful Winnings competing from that silver category. Number 23 has properly wowed expectations over the course of his very short tenure here in Season 7. And I think that less stress involved of having to try and fight for a championship all season long has really allowed him to stretch his legs and give us some properly solid performances in that Ford. Minus that little stab of oversteer he had out of turn 12. It's been a very smooth opener here in the opening 4 minutes of racing for round 13 in race 1 of today. Slowly being reeled back in by Elite Cassie, so we could see the battle of the Titans here, Ford versus Mercedes. Two of what are regarded as the boats in the GT3 class look to be duking it out for third very, very shortly. You can see in the background as well, Regent has now got up and past Tyler Vermack. So the Ferrari's already exchanging blows for position. They're heading out of turn 7 in through turn 8 now at Coppice. So as we cut away here from the number 23. See how much time he's making up in a straight line just before we cut away there on the Honda of Hayden Puttock. Trying to get a look around the field here as we see a little bit of oversteer around turn 8 for Taz MCFC. And the number 996 competing for 20th position there ahead of him, VSR Abok, and number 27, the bright green BMW. So we go down through the S's. ETE Giles has moved up a few positions from race start. He's up to 8th position. Actually see almost side-by-side action round Goddard's at turn 12 there between Vermack and Regent. Hin Pappy has taken the fall down at Melbourne. Turn 11, the 777 car is in serious trouble. He's down to 24th. After what looked to be oversteer out of turn 11. Car facing in at the inside wall. Back on board here, the front row, Hayden Puttock and Just Boris separated by 0.7 of a second. Wishful Winnings is off by only half a second, so it could be a 3-man battle for the lead of this race if Hayden Puttock can get a wriggle on in that Honda. We're on board here with Puttock, the 313, chasing for the race lead. Got a clear line of sight as the sun starts to set here in Donington Park. Down in through the S's. You can see how comfortable the Ford is compared to the Honda through that section. Wishful Winnings is really able to just catapult that number 23 down through the S's. Now as we're out through Melbourne at turn 11 here, see where he makes up so much time. And then down towards the straights here, the very short straights, mind you, between turns 11 and 12, and then through turn 12 into turn 1. It's where that Mustang can just make up so much more time on the Honda in front of him. He knows, try as he may, as manoeuvrable as the Honda is, that V6 can only give so much, and the Ford engine has already proven to be one of the best in class at the moment. It has been a very, very tough brand to compete with in a straight line. We've seen it time and time again. How Ford have been able to cut through the crowd with such relative ease with that 5.4 litre. See here, there's the race leader, Just Boris, by 0.7 of a second at the moment, so that gap is stabilised and it's sat just under a second here for the last, say, about 7 or so minutes in the opening of race 1. We'll be getting a recount of the standing order here in about 3.5 minutes' time after our first 10 minutes of racing has passed. Looking here with Wadenator looking to fight T. Whitey for 9th position. We'll stay on board with the 169 here, looking for an ambitious drive in round 13 of the championship. Wadenator, of course, competing down in the silver category. Made his most recent move over to McLaren. Moving away from Ford. And what has been one of the more controversial decisions by Wadenator over the course of his career is one of the more regular customers of Ford Performance when it was introduced. To make his move over to McLaren symbolises a change in mentality for Wadenator this late into his career. Right now, though, he's fighting for 9th. In front of him there, the Aston Martin of T. Whitey. Driver who, alongside Boy Shea, has been put into that silver category after only one race. So they've already proven themselves capable of that middle category. As we can see, Hin Pappy's taken a dive into the pit lane to repair some damages over the nose of that Ford Mustang. The 777 just emerging there alongside the 169 and the 67. So as I was saying, they've already proven themselves capable of competing in the middle category. Silver has proven to be one of the most airtight categories for competition, with the championship currently being decided by about 4 points in the midst of it, coming into round 13. Only a 4-point gap between the leading Aston Martins, the Funky Fish and Oatsy. Right now, we're focused in on the battle for 9th here. We continue to follow with Wadenator. The possibility of that battle still lingers on the horizon. I'd say we could probably see a fight within the next 3 or so laps between these two. You can see the Aston just has the McLaren pinned dead to rights in a straight line at the moment, just coming out of turn 8 down towards the S's at turn 9 and 10. TYT, whatever he's got set up on that Aston, you can just see it start to pull away. It's got so much grunt down low through those gears. And a McLaren's normally one of the better cars for acceleration. But really, I am surprised to see what leaps and strides Aston Martin has made over the course of this season to make their car as competitive as can be. We're actually going to have to cut away from this battle as we can see up the order. Blue Frog, Vermac and Regent all looking to fight here. As we just see Pete and Grizz exchange positions for 15th. We do want to try and get on board with this fight as quick as we can. So let's go on board with Blue Frog, who's leading this car, this multi-car battle, I should remind you. About 4 cars in all for 5th positions. As we stay on board with the number 61. Regent has already made strides for position this early on into the race, and now we're about 10 minutes in, so we'll stay on board the fight for 5th position. We're following the perspective of the number 61 of the Blue Frog with BMW. As now we get a look at our overall standings. Just Boris, of course, leading this race now by 1.4 seconds, has doubled the gap to Hayden Puttock since the last time we checked on board with our front row runners. Wishful Winnings in 3rd and 1.8 seconds behind Puttock. 3.4 seconds. Oh, never mind. I'm going to have to interrupt myself. That was Regent into the wall there. Let's get a replay on that. Just in the corner of our eye as we go around the S's. What happened there to that? It was a dark red Ferrari, if I'm not mistaken. There, it was contact between Vermac and Regent. There, Regent was going slow out of the S's. Vermac clocked his back end. He tried to get out of the way, and it was too little too late for the South African. He ended up colliding with the back of Regent, spiraling the number 420 out of control. There'll be a word from the stewards then, no doubt about it. So that's a refresh to our standings, with one car knocked down to 10th, that being Regent, otherwise going by FR77 in the number 420 car. He's down to 10th. We're watching with the Blue Frog as he takes a big slide around turn 4 at the old hairpin. We could be seeing an imminent move here by Tyler Vermac, so we're going to go on board with Vermac here as we continue to recount our standing order, or if we'll get the opportunity to do so here. With so many twists and turns in the road, it has been nigh impossible to give you an accurate reading of where we're standing here inside the top 10 in such short amount of time. Right now, though, Tyler Vermac in 6th position, with Blue Frog in 5th, ETEGL 7th, TYT up to 8th, Wadenator up to 9th, Regent down to 10th. Wadenator, mind you, is still hunting down Whitey for position. We'll stay on board, though, with Tyler Vermac, who looks to be sizing up a move into 5th on the Blue Frog in the number 61 BMW in front there. Now, I did say BMW were going to struggle in this round, but Blue Frog has really been able to just knuckle down and deal with it. That 20 kilo deficit that BMW were working against, they got that added 20 kilo ballast at play. You can see side by side at the moment down the order as well. Wadenator side by side with Whitey. Whitey to the inside, Wadenator to the outside. It's going to be a drag race between McLaren and Aston down towards turn 1 just before we get on board with Tyler Vermac. We're on with Wadenator in that fight for 8th position now. Wadenator takes it there through Redgate. TYT still to the outside. We're going to have to definitely stay on board with these two now. A little too exciting to cut away from. Wadenator looks to make this decisive. Down through turn 1 into turn 2 now. At turn 3 at the Craner curves. You see behind them by only 2 seconds is Regent on a scorned drive. That was very clean stuff there by Wadenator. Now back on board with Tyler Vermac as we continue to recount our standing order. That's if we'll get the opportunity to do so. So as we just saw there, Wadenator up to 8th, Whitey down to 9th, Regent in 10th, Twiglet 11th, Soviet 12th, Funky Fish in 13th, Oatsy 14th. So that's our 2 silver front runners in the championship at the moment. Eerily close to one another by about 3.1 seconds. They're separated by 4 points in the championship for silver coming into this round. So it's going to be very fine stuff heading into round 14. VSR Grizz in 15th with Pete 16th, Smiler 17th, Dollar Up in 18th, Taz 19th, Antion 20th, Abok 21st, Aussie 22nd, Jayco 23rd, Hin Fappy 24th, and Boyshay in 25th. Well, it definitely is quite a bit of drama there as we get towards the halfway mark. We're back on board with the defending of 2 cars, the Blue Frog, the number 61 BMW. You can see as we head out of Goddard how much more straight line speed the Beamer has on the Ferrari. It's one of its strongest attributes. It's what puts the BMW up in the sort of big 3 for straight line speed, that being Lexus and Ford, its other 2 compatriots. Unrivaled in a straight line. He's used that to great effect here. A lot of his moves have been secured down from out of turn 8 down towards turn 9 and 10, then from out of turn 10 towards turn 11, then out of turn 11 to turn 12, and then from turn 12 to turn 1. Everywhere that there is a straight, the BMW absolutely flourishes up against its competition out of Ferrari and Ford. And speaking of Ford, you can see lingering behind our 2 here in the fight for 5th is the car in 7th, ETE Giles. Hunting them down slowly but surely. He'll be hoping these 2 get proper elbows out, heading down into Sector 3 of the track, though Tyler Vermack is just too far away to be making a move into the S's. He'll be hoping for a mistake out of the BMW very, very soon. We're down towards the halfway mark of this race, and already it has been an exciting opening round here of the 2-parter that is today's race day coverage. Round 13 and round 14, so don't go anywhere after the checkered flag drops here, because it's going to drop a second time by the end of this stream. Double trouble then here at Donington. The 996 is in trouble, and that's brought the yellow flags out at turn 4. And that's Taz in the Ford there. It's now been brought back into the pit lane just as we cross now into lap 10 of this race. A big spin out by Taz into the turn 4. It's very easy for the car to wash out in that section. It's even harder to keep the cars side by side, so plausible deniability on either fronts there as to what exactly was the cause. But Taz is off. We're in the halfway mark now, though. We'll give it another 5 minutes before we cover the standing order again. Tyler Vermack is all over the back end of the Blue Frog, but we've already seen that the Ferrari has very minor damage to play with. Now, how far this ripples down in his performance, whether or not it's now that he's just going to be a lot more cautious around the back end of the cars in front of him, or whether or not there is actual proper aero damage on that Ferrari remains to be seen. From what we can see from our cameras here, doesn't look like anything too major for the number 22. So now I think it's gotten to be a little bit more of a mentality game here. Tyler Vermack is just playing it safe now. Doesn't want any more incidents under his belt by the end of this round, though, of course, isn't going to be sitting around and exactly waiting for the position to drop into his lap. A top 5 sits right in front of him. Now he just has to bide his time and see where things go. See, not too far up the order as well as car in 4th position, Elite Cassie in the number 98 Mercedes. Oh, we'll try and have a quick look around the track here before we head down towards turn 1 with our battle of 5th position. Wishful Winning's now in a very secure podium position right now as he's dropped Elite Cassie by 5.3 seconds in that Mustang. Taz in the pit lane then joins the roster of drivers potentially down and out of round 13. You can see here ETE Giles has got a front row seat to the fight for 5th place in front of him, though you can see the BMW's just far enough up the road there to not be taken on the inside at turn 4. See, all of the cars separated by only about a second to 2 seconds on average. Really, where you start to see those massive leaps and strides is when you get into division gaps. Is where you get to see your fastest silver drivers up against your slowest gold drivers and vice versa. Right now, though, the gap up front, same story. It's 1 second between Just Boris and Hayden Puttick. These two have glued each other together over the course of this race. They've stayed very close here. About 13 minutes left to go in round 13. They'll have another opportunity to strike back at one another, but of course they'll have to get one more qualifying run in, another 10-minute session on the horizon. So another opportunity for Hayden Puttick to potentially strike back on Just Boris and deny him his 8th career pole. Potentially take another under his belt. Of course, Hayden Puttick, alongside drivers like Fast Fanatical and even Tyler Vermack, have all held the mantle of taking pole positions off of Just Boris. It's what's led to his 50% pole rate, that other 50% being held between 4 different drivers. So that is a Really remarkable statistic to put up side by side to one another. Let's go back then to our fight for 5th place to see what the update is. In the fight of Vermac v Blue Frog. As you can see, they're practically side by side there on the timing charts. Then they had to filter back in the front and rear, down towards turn 4, out of the Craner Curves, and now out the old hairpin, up towards Starkey's Bridge. We're on with Vermac. This is still in the fight for 5th place as he's now right along to the back end of that BMW. Number 420 of Region is in the pit lane as well. That brought the yellow flags out briefly. I believe that could be the nail in the coffin on round 13's prospects for Region. Of course, after that incident we saw earlier at this stretch of the track, actually just after this corner here, the S's, there was an incident between Vermac and Region. Clocked across the back end just out of this corner here. The Nico MCFC in chat asking, did I see your incident? Sadly, I didn't. I was covering the Battle of 5th place. So there, we've now learned information. It wasn't a spin out then for Taz MCFC. It was, in fact, a racing incident. Now, I did have the sort of thought in the back of my mind that 2 cars have gone side by side into there. You don't end up that far out of turn 4 on accident just by your own volition. So yeah, so we're seeing in chat at the moment that Antion apparently cut him off going into turn 4. Of course, we don't have the incident to hand at the moment, but of course incidents will be available more likely than not in the VSR Phoenix server as the race reports come out for round 13. Of course, we still have one more round left to go for today, at least, here at Donington Park, before we get on to the next endurance round at the Nürburgring and the penultimate round of the championship, no less, where things could be sealed away. We're still on board with Vermac. As we start to run some numbers in the background here as well. Now, if we had to take a look at the scoring system for this championship. Now, normally in these races here in VSR Phoenix, your leading position will get 50 points. Then P2 gets 45, P3 41, P4 38, P5 35, P6 32, P7 30, P8 28, P9 26, and P10 gets 24. Now that goes all the way down to P28, where you get 1 singular point. Now this is sliced down the middle for these rounds. Then it's only up to 25 points available for each race win. So, and I think for some of these they've either rounded up or down in order to accustom for that, as there are quite a few here that can't actually be divided by 2. So I'm not exactly 100% on how the race directors go about this, though I do know that it is down the middle for these rounds. Why I'm bringing all of this up is to discuss that current gap. First is Just Boris, and in 7th is his championship rival ETE Giles. Now he needs to make that gap 200 points by the end of round 14 to cement his championship title. In fact, I think that gap may even have to reduce to 150. So we could very well be crowning a champion here in round 14 of the championship. With 50 points up for grab today, with 2 25 increments. 50 points up for grabs today for race winning, and then 100 for next week's race as it's an endurance event. The points are doubled, and then we're back to the 50-point regiment. We've got 200 points left in this championship. Mathematically speaking, we are very, very close to seeing Just Boris cement his championship title here in Season 7. As we're discussing this points gap, that battle has slowly started to simmer between Vermac and Blue Frog, as we now have to sort of redouble our efforts to focus here on what is very likely to be a very soon and last second battle of P4. Elite Cassie has properly dropped behind Hayden Puttock, as he has now dropped behind Wishful Winnings, who in the meantime of our discussion around the battle of P5 has now taken second position. That is remarkable stuff by the number 23. It's a pity we didn't catch that. We were so lasered in on the battle of P5 to have missed that out. Definitely keep a close eye on these two heading into round 14 in about, looking at it here with 7 minutes left to go in the race, about 20 minutes time. Wishful Winnings currently second, Hayden Puttock having dropped down to third. So let's get a look at our running of the standing order here. Just Boris still leads this race and now leads it by 10 seconds thereabouts. It's dropped down to 9 in the time we've observed it. Hayden Puttock still within a second here of second place. Is looking to fight Wishful Winnings all the way to the checkered flag. In fourth place is Elite Cassie, who is having to size up his defence of P5 here, with Blue Frog really getting a wriggle on in that BMW to put quite a lot of pressure there on the Mercedes in front. Meanwhile, further down the line, ETE Giles is looking to pressure Tyler Vermack for position, and in the same stroke, Wadenator is looking to pressure ETE Giles. So we've got a 3-car fight for, looking at it here, 6th on the horizon. We've got a 2-car fight for 4th, and we've got a 2-car fight for 2nd. This is absolutely epic stuff towards the end of round 13. What a treat then we're in for. We're right now looking at the battle of 2nd from the perspective of Wishful Winnings in the number 23 Ford Mustang. Right behind him, the number 313 of Hayden Puttock with Honda. These two clashed heads in the background whilst we were looking at the battle for 5th. Now we can see swapping the positions up Starkeys goes Hayden Puttock. So Wishful Winnings forfeits 2nd position. Well, that was a mysterious move there by the 23. Perhaps something had occurred somewhere down the line and this is his way of repaying it. We didn't exactly catch the full story there. Could only have so many eyes in so many places. But Wishful Winnings is down to 3rd, out through Starkeys. Let's get a look then down the line as we get to see what is looking to be a proper treat. Wadenator v Giles here for 7th. ETE Giles is it's looking a little bit bleak to say the least in his hopes of trying to clinch the championship. Of course, it would take for an utter disaster to befall Boris in the next 4 rounds. He's in it for the ride now though. Season 5's champion still duking it out in what looks to be very shortly a potential battle for 6th there, as he's very quickly caught up to Tyler Vermack. Wadenator on his tail there as well, and the number 169 up front as well. We've still got the fight separated by about a second at the moment. Elite Cassie versus Blue Frog for 4th position. Right now we're watching Wadenator pressure ETE Giles for 7th. You see the Mustang slowly peel away there. Even though the McLaren's in the slipstream, there is absolutely nothing it can do to go toe-to-toe with that 5.4 litre under the bonnet of that Ford Mustang. It is absolutely brutal in a straight line. So down through Craners, this is where the McLaren's got the leg up here. Rotation is its A game, and down towards turn 4 is Wadenator going to try for a lunge on the inside. Yes, he is, and it's contact between the pair of them. Up to 7th goes Wadenator, much to the chagrin of ETEG, as he will not be happy with that move whatsoever. A little bit of pushing and shoving there, some touring cars level activity for that fight of 7th position. Nonetheless, Giles is soldiering on. A slight stab of oversteer there, that nearly got nasty for him out through turn 7. Having a look around the field here, 0.6 of a second for one another is Smiler and Grizz in the fight of 15th. Porsche versus McLaren. We'll keep up to date on that as it develops. Hayden Puttock still out in front of Wishful Winnings. That gap separated by about a second at the moment. Puttock's looking for another podium. Wishful Winnings is looking for a podium in his own respect with 4 minutes left to go, just under. As we get down towards the line, we've only got about 2 more laps left in the bookings here. As Just Boris continues to lead this race. And I'd say by the end of round 14, on this kind of track record, we are looking very shortly at a potential run of Season 7's champion right here and now in the 999. See in the background though, that was the 27, that was Abok. Looked like it had a little bit of trouble out of turn 4. Having a look around the field, Jayco 1.6 seconds up the field from VSR Dollar up. Behind him, 1.1 seconds down in 19th is Aussie, who we saw earlier in the battle. Those two going side by side through the S's. That was some spectacular stuff to behold. Now we're looking here, separated by 0.3 of a second, is Elite Cassie and Blue Frog. BMW versus Mercedes for 4th. So you can see in the background, Tyler Vermack's looking to become a 3rd party. We're staying on board with Cassie, the defending of 2, heading into Coppice at turn 8. Vermack's now right on the tail of Blue Frog. It's 3 cars in all for the fight of 4th position. Right at the very end here of round 13, one of 2 30-minute sprint races today here at Donington Park in VSR Phoenix Season 7. Looks to be a very grand exit for round 1 of 2 of the Donington Super Sprint. Side by side, on our run down towards turn 11. It looks like the BMW might be able to try for around the outside here. It's going to cut very late back onto the apex. A brilliant switchback then by Blue Frog to make it side by side on the run down towards turn 12. It's now single file, as now we see a move up, a double swerve there to try and bring it to the inside. Elite Cassie does have the inside of that corner, out through turn 12. He's back up into 4th position. That is brilliant stuff. Oh my word. You can see there Giles as well looks to be clashing heads with Wadenator in the background, as now we see down into Redgate. This is absolutely epic stuff between Mercedes, BMW and Ferrari. We are seeing an absolute treat here of a battle in towards the last couple of laps around 13. Bear in mind, they're not going anywhere after the checkered flag. They've got another race here in about 10 to 20 minutes time, so don't go anywhere. This is a brilliant way to kickstart a double round. So out through Starkey's Bridge, you can really see where he's opened the gap there. He's put foot to floor. But out through turn 7, that BMW just gains so much time on him. Look at it there. Out through turn 8, it's nearly side by side as they get towards corner entry. Here you can see this is where the BMW's got the leg up on the Mercedes. Its straight line speed is its main advantage, but he'll be to the outside at the S's. He's going to have to try for something very brave here. You can see he goes earlier on the brakes to get a more aggressive line. Elite Cassie has to forfeit around the outside at turn 10. I've never seen a move as gusto as that. That is brilliant stuff by Blue Frog. Vermac follows him through as well. Elite Cassie drops 2 positions out of 1 mistake. That was undeniable stuff. You can see where Vermax, this is the second half of that move. It's a shame that we didn't capture further back from there, but what a move by the Blue Frog. Vermac follows him through at Melbourne. Cassie drops 2 positions. He's going to be absolutely furious. It might even be 3 here as we head down into Redgate, as now we're looking imminently at the fight of 6th. ETE Giles is right up against the rear bumper of that Mercedes. Something horrible had to have happened in the last couple of minutes here for Elite Cassie's Mercedes to have dropped off so unimaginably quickly. It's nearly a full compression between 3 cars in all there. Giles now to the inside up Starkey's. So Cassie loses out 6th. He's now having a fight from 7th. As you can see, Wadenator now gets it by. So does Soviet Mario. There's nothing he can do to fight there. What on earth happened? I don't believe what I'm seeing there. That was quite something. We're going to quickly try and catch on board here with just Boris, the race leader, getting down towards the line here. On round 1, checkered flag. I don't believe the checkered flag's out. He's got 1 more lap running in. No, as a matter of fact, checkered flags are out. So right before the penny drops there, just Boris takes the win in round 13. He is ever closer to his charge of the championship title. It was a win so quick and so decisive that even we couldn't clock it in the nick of time there. Hayden Puttock second, Wishful Winnings third. The Blue Frog takes home a victorious 4th position finish. That is brilliant. A drive-through penalty sadly befalls Tyler Vermac at the end of this round. That gives him an extra 30 seconds there at the checkered flag. ETE Giles looks to gain a position, so it's still lively. We're not done yet. We've got at least 1 more round in it here. I don't even doubt that the maths could even point in the direction that Boris may be a champion right here and now, but I think he'll want to see at least 1 more race under these kind of precarious conditions before the penny drops and he becomes Season 7's champion. So we've got at least 1 more race to cover before that. What a great end then to that opening round, I must say. Driver of the day, unmistakably, for that great move. Absolute cinema from the Blue Frog in the 61. So we found out what happened to Elite Cassie. He ran out of fuel. And that's what led to his car is actually broken down there at the checkered flag. So just before Goddard turned 12. I've never seen that happen before. That is miraculous stuff. The last time I've ever experienced a fuel outage was back on the original Assetto Corsa, back during the TRR MX5 Cup Series. I've never seen in ACC a driver run out of fuel before. It obviously was running things very close to the belt. And I think that's kind of Cassie's style. It's been his style since his entry back in round 8 at Bathurst. He's really ran things very close to the line. And he's flown just a little too close to the sun in this instance. And he's finishing in a reluctant 17th on what could have been an easy top 10. Slight miscalculation in fuel has damned Mercedes' hopes here in round 13, but not to fret. We've got one more just like this round right on the horizon. What an end then to round 13. So we'll be straight into round 14. We'll be back in just a moment's time. Right, and after a little short break from us there, just after the end of round 13. Still one more round then. It's taken, I must say, it's taken a mighty minute there at the checkered flag for things to wrap up and get us in around 14's qualifying session. Now, if you want to take a look at the schedule coming into today, we've of course still got another quali session, same as last, 10 minutes, and then a race session just like last, another 30 minutes of racing. That makes round 14 of the championship here, and our last round, sadly, from Donington Park in Season 7. Nico MCFC in chat saying, I thought you were adjusting your camera. No, I don't have a webcam. I've never really found a use for having one. It's just, for my line of work, it's just not been, I've never really wanted my face on the internet, really. Just sort of a preference, really. I've never seen, I mean, you get it at the start, like you see it at the start with touring cars and with F1, you see, you know, the commentators in the commentary box. I might do something like that. I'll get like a green screen. I'll play pretend, do it for a bit. Maybe. Right, what was that at the end of round 13 then? Proper drama in the last 10 minutes. Wasn't expecting that. I mean, it looked like a little bit of a done deal at the 15-minute mark. What a start we've got to this two-parter round. We see Twiglet's actually coming up to the front of the line here, just inspect the masses to see what's going on. The number 96 breaks its rear right suspension almost instantly there for Lexus. I'm a little confused exactly as to what's going on. You can see engines fire back up. Having a look around the field here. There we go. Okay, so I think it was just beyond its maximum limit for the sort of end of session timer the Assetto Corsa games have. We're on board then for Quali 2 with Elite Cassie NL. So we've got 10 minutes on the bookings here for the second qualifying session of today. This is for round 14 of the championship. Now taking a look at the calendar. See, it's the last of our two Donington rounds here today on the 26th of March. And then, of course, we're back to Nürburgring for an endurance race on round 15. That's on the 2nd of April next Wednesday. Then the week after that is the season finale round at Suzuka, back to the standard 1 hour to bring wraps to the end of this championship. But I think we're about to see the wrap up on the gold category here heading into round 14. As Just Boris is ever closer to that unstoppable gap at the front of the gold pack. You see here, Cassie letting Boris by. We're going to go on board with the car, leading the charge down towards turn 1. The red gate will be leading down towards turn 1. They're currently down at turn 11. It's Hayden Puttock with Honda. But just like last time, Puttock's the sort of early bird to get the worm here in Donington. On much sunnier conditions than last. We're now in towards sort of midday. It's about 1:02 p.m. local here in Donington Park. Nice, bright, sunny conditions. Much more favourable than the last couple of qualifyings we've seen over the course of this championship. It's definitely been quite a challenge for a few of these drivers, especially for Puttock, because he's the only driver to be running the Honda NSX. It's honestly, it's been so long since we've seen a driver go out of their way to pick the NSX, and I think the last driver I've seen do that was in the, I think it was in the AXRL Southern Endurance Series, which you can find available on the TRTN Twitch channel. It's in old past broadcast, and it was Joshua Kaufman ran a solo team called Kitsune Motorsports in an endurance series, no less, and ran the Honda NSX, and was actually remarkably good, despite the fact that he was outnumbered team-wise, and in a car with very little overlasting support at this length of the sort of ACC meta. With all of the updates that have come out since the NSX got its Evo package, it's not really gotten the support I think it deserves, and we see these drivers break out every now and again, like Puttock, that make these unorthodox choices. And oh, I may have spoken a little too soon there. I think the Honda's just shown one of its major flaws, just as we've been singing its high praises there. So we'll go on board with just Boris as he heads down towards the line here in Quali 2 of today. Took pole position in Quali 1. Is he going back for back here? He's already got 7 pole positions now. It started off as 6 coming into this round. He had a pole position rate of 50%. That's one of the highest we've ever seen as well. That coincides with his win rate, 75%. That's only gone up now since the end of round 13. Just Boris then taking a 1:27.015 as his first time. Provisionally fastest for now. We'll see where it stacks up though as the rest of the grid continues to join up. Blue Frog second fastest by half a second there. Provisionally second fastest. Now we start to see the times come through. VSR Smiler fourth, was briefly third, down to fourth courtesy of Soviet Mario. Now down to fifth courtesy of Funky Fish, who makes fourth position in the 982 Aston Martin. Next to the line is the 57. It's ETE Gilles. Right on his tail there is VSR Pete. Gilles doesn't cross the line with a valid time, but Pete does and makes third fastest by 0.6 of a second. So a remarkable start by the number 77 McLaren. A late spur to try and get him back into the fight in the silver category. Now we see those times really start to pile in. Oatsy, fourth fastest in that brand new livery on his Aston Martin. The black and red there, dark twist of his normal colours. Normally runs the contrasting white and blue. Now for Oatsy, it's sort of a move over to the dark side, as it were, in the number 6. As he's looking to hunt things down here on the Silver Championship front. See T. Whitey as well goes fourth fastest with Aston Martin. A very late spur by Aston in this championship. As a matter of fact, in general as well, Aston Martin have done remarkably well in most of the leagues we've been covering at the moment. And this was a car that was, at one point in its development life cycle, quite down and out. A lot of the players that started off playing ACC that would gravitate towards this car started to move away in favour of other cars like the McLaren and the Ferrari. But we've seen this renaissance most recently out of Aston, and we've also seen a renaissance as well on 2 different fronts, VSR being one of them. This driver here, VSR Twiggler, also happens to compete in the NLRL Sunday League, which is another league where we've seen this resurgence of Lexus as well, where, well, one other driver, Jason Bush, is currently leading the championship in a Lexus, no less. And it's still showing that the original choices, even though there's been plenty of other choices introduced that some you could make the argument are better for most, some drivers are going to stick to their guns on the cars that they started off with. And honestly, that's paying off better because it's showing a much more comfortable state of performance out of these drivers. I think with a lot of the people who've stuck around with the Aston and the Lexus, you see that in the way they command themselves on the grid. You never see them overstressing that car, and when they do, it's usually because of an incident. Meanwhile, we've now seen the first of our times out of Hayden Puttock, and he's off by 0.2 of a second. Elite Cassie does not cross the line for another lap time. He's currently off by 1.6, nearly on 1.7 seconds. He's down in 14th position. A bit of a turn of fate there into the second qualifying session. Now, we must bear in mind we've got about 4 minutes left to go. That's plenty of time for the Mercedes to get back out on a fresh set of tyres and set in 1, maybe 2 more lap times if he's really lucky. As you can see there in front, the name tag would suggest that Elite Cassie has done just that and is out through Redgate. Puttock crosses the line then. Sadly, not enough for position. Just Boris looking to make it his 8th career podium in VSR. Really hard to take that away from him. He has commanded himself very nicely in that McLaren. It's been flawless in round 13. In fact, it was so flawless that we barely even saw him for most of that race. It was a phantom win by Just Boris. He was so far away from the rest of the pack. We were focusing more on what was going on down in the back of the top 5 and then further down towards the back of the top 10 for most of that race. Tyler Vermack just crossing the line there for 3rd on a very ambitious drive. Now, of course, Vermack has a race win this season, one in Bathurst. On his first drive in that Ferrari that you're seeing on screen there, the number 22. It's undergone many different livery changes, but he's settled now on the bright azure tones of the Euro Titans Endurance team's colours, of which he is an integral part of. So as to see there, Wishful Winnings just making his way down through Goddard's at turn 12. His last lap made him 4th fastest by 7/10 of a second and by about 200ths behind Vermack. Can he equalise then? Yes, he can, and up to 3rd he goes. Off by 3/10 from pole, but he's 4/10 ahead of Tyler Vermack on that last run round. Number 1 having crossed the line most recently, that was Antion. Sadly, not enough to set a time. I think it was either invalidated or an outlap there for the number 1 Ferrari. We'll see just quickly with Vermack in front of him there is Wayne Nater. And then further up the road, the 777 of Hin Hin Pappy. We'll be getting times out of them very shortly, I should say. The number 57 is next to the line as well. That's ETE Cheels. It looks like he may have to, by the end of this round, settle for 2nd at best in the championship to Just Boris. He qualifies 8th there on that last run. Let's quickly get back on board with Wadenator and Vermack down towards the line. Wadenator gets down towards the line there and remains in 7th. Vermack sadly doesn't equalise on Wishful Winnings. Looks for 4th position here as we've got but mere minutes left in qualifying. 1.5 minutes to be exact. So one more run around is definitely on the bookings for this driver here. If he really puts hell to leather, he can maybe get just about 2 more laps in with 10 seconds to spare. T. Whitey crossing the line then 7th place. It's remarkable performance for such a late entry into the championship there, having to wrestle as Aston round Redgate, catching a little bit of the gravel on the outside. Blue Frog crosses the line for 8th fastest. So qualifying's not been a strong suit, but you can see that racing is more than definitely his bread and butter. He's a driver that, while he may qualify somewhere down the order, can definitely chain together a much better performance when the flags start dropping. T. Whitey goes back up to 8th position then with Aston Martin. Is now actually, sorry, he was actually 7th and is down to 8th. I should make the correction. Is now up to 6th. Better late than never is Elite Cassie NL. Region in 5th at the moment, getting down to the line. Can he get the leg up on Vermack? We saw them, of course, side by side over the course of round 13. That's what led to their little incident after the S's. Regent doesn't equalise on this lap gone, but he's got just enough time for one more lap around. Let's see what he can do then. We'll catch up with him in a moment's time. We're looking here to see the number 44 across the line next as we scroll around the paddock to try and find the number 44. I think it's a case where we're just being a little bit blind today. The number 44 actually crossed the line with just enough time to spare. Hayden Puttock is back on a pole position here. We've only just caught this. It's just updated now. Just Boris is 2/10ths off. So could it be pole number 8 for Just Boris? Or could we be seeing another career pole position for Hayden Puttock, who's sort of cemented himself here as a sort of arch rival? Despite not being there in the championship, he's proven himself to be one of many drivers to stand toe-to-toe with Just Boris. Just Boris is in the pit lane. Puttock aborts his flying lap. There's really only one driver left in the mix here that could take it off of either of them. And you're looking at him right now. Wishful Winnings in front of him, as well as ETE Giles, who's looking to just qualify inside the top 10 by the end of this quali session. Wishful Winnings, though, throws the towel in on his lap, as too does Regent and Elite Cassie and Soviet. T. Whitey crosses the line for 8th. Blue Frog into the pits then for 9th. Giles is the only one left. down towards the line. He's looking for a top 10. Can he make it possible? As he gets down towards the finish line, it's 9th for ETE Geos at the end of qualifying 2. So we finally want to catch on board with the 44. We couldn't catch him last lap. It's VSR Grizz from 16th position at the moment. Can it be a top 15? Has to find 1/10 of a second there. 1/10 and 3 thousandths. If you want to be specific, down to the line, is it top 15 material? Sadly, not this time around for Grizz. No matter, he'll have 30 minutes to try and make up for that. He'll be starting alongside Oatsy, the number 6 Aston Martin. That's tough competition, but he's definitely made a few wonder kid moves over the course of this season, so I would never rule Grizz out there. He already proved his mettle by making his way up from bronze into silver by the end of this season. He's definitely got the makings, maybe by the end of Season 8 perhaps, of a gold standard driver. That's the same story for quite a few people in that silver category. So we'll get the run of our grid for round 14 of the championship. It's looking very, very interesting indeed, I must say. As denied pole number 8. He's made it 7, lucky number 7. Maybe there was an omen to that for him not wanting to go for number 8. Maybe he needs the luck from that last pole position back in round 13 to give him extra luck on this. I don't know what the real stigmata behind it is. Maybe I'm just wording it nicely for him. But it's denied pole number 8 for just Boris. Hayden Puttick then will start from that front row, that top position on grid with Honda. That's looking to make this a very interesting second and final here in Donington before the end of our Super Sprint day. So then, having a look at our grid here for round 14 on our second race today here at Donington Park, it's Hayden Puttick who now makes pole position with Honda, as a role reversal on that front row makes Just Boris our second place driver in the 999 and soon to be champion of Season 7 by the way things have been going today. Wishful Winnings is in 3rd and Tyler Vermack in 4th. It's a very strong start there by the 22, and he's ahead of what is going to be his rival here at Donington, fellow Ferrari driver Regent in the number 420, otherwise going by FR77. Lee Cassie down to 6th from his last qualifying session. He's got a little bit of time to make up for in the number 98. A little bit nervous now about his fuel run since he ran out of fuel in round 13. He won't be looking to make the same mistake twice. Soviet Mario in 7th with TYT in 8th position. ETE Geos in 9th, and rounding out our top 10 is the Blue Frog. He's got a little bit more to handle since last quali. He's down 2 positions from qualifying 1 today. Wade Nater in 11th with Funky Fish in 12th, Twiglet 13th, Pete 14th, Oatsy 15th, Grizz 16th, Antion 17th, Hin Hin Pappy 18th, Smiler 19th. Rounding out that top 20 is Aussie 207. Taz in 21st, in 22nd is VSR Avok, Dollar Up in 23rd, Boyshay 24th, and Jaco in 25th position. So it's looking to be a very exciting extra round here at Donington. This is some of the joy that we get from the sprint format. I hope that going into Season 8, if we are to stay on board with the guys at VSR, that we hope to see more rounds like this. Now, when we covered Zolder back in rounds 2 and 3 of the championship, you take a look on the calendar, it was an exciting pair of rounds there, and it was in mixed conditions. So it started with, I think it was more to do with day and night than dry and wet, but it was a day race and a night race. It's been sort of a sunset race for the first one, and now we've got nice, bright, sunny conditions for this final of 2 today for round 14 of the championship before we get on to our penultimate round next week at the Nürburgring. So, riding on the sort of twilight here of our announcement for Just Boris, as it's looking very, very close. We've been crunching some of the numbers in the background here. This is looking to be a very exciting round, and we're hoping to see all guns blazing action down into turn 1. Let's see what these drivers are made of then as we start our formation lap from the perspective of our pole sitter, the number 313 for round 14 of the championship, Hayden Puttick with Honda. Also seen there in chat as well, Christian LeBay, champion of NLRL Sunday League Season 1, suggesting that he may join VSR for Season 8 of the VSR Phoenix GT Championship. With his Aston Martin V12 Vantage, those two have become inseparable, the 119. That is a potential little bit of early scoop news here on TRTN. As you saw it in our chat first, Christian Lebay potentially making his entry in Season 8. We'll see where the penny drops on that in a few weeks' time when the season concludes around the middle of April. Right now, though, taking us away on formation lap number 2 of today. This is for round 14, as we've just covered round 13 here of the championship from Donington Park. Taking us away then, Hayden Puttock. And where Wishful Winnings is standing, right there in 3rd position, right behind Just Boris. He's in a very comfortable position. Of course, had a very good look at the podium in the last round gone. He's not going to be complaining with anything on that front. Those two Ferraris, you can see how they're motioning around each other now. Let's try and get on board with them here just before as we get up towards Starkey's. That is not a happy man behind the wheel of the 420. Regent is, you know, he's trying to sort of live and let live in this situation, but you can see that it's not a happy driver by any stretch of the imagination as he is right on the tailpipes there. And the number 22 in front of him, he is not happy at all with Vermac. There could be blood, do be warned, between these two. Of course, our drivers do try and keep things professional, but every now and again you do get these on-track rivalries where the camaraderie goes by the wayside and animosity becomes the prime directive. So out through turn 8 we go. Regent starts in a very confident top 5, so definitely got the makings of a solid drive here on lap 1, just has to make the pieces fit. So he's got quite the crowd in front and behind him. That is not an easy crowd to contend with. Staple names here in Season 7. Strong offense and strong defense all the way across the top 10. We've got new names in and amongst the mix as well. If we take a look inside our top 10, see just ahead of Blue Frog is T. Whitey, the purple Aston Martin. Let's see if we can try and get on board with him just before we go back on with our front runners. Having a look here. Where is T. Whitey hiding? See there, the purple Aston Martin is a new name in the crowd. And he's got quite the grid to contend with there from 8th position. He's going to have quite a run down into turn 1. So let's go on board with our front row then for round 14 of the championship. Our second of 2 30-minute races today here in VSR Phoenix Season 7. We're on with Hayden Puttock. We're heading down round turn 12 we go. It's going to be a short run to the start-finish line. Taking us away, Honda from McLaren. 25 cars in all for round 14, our second sprint race of today at Donington Park. Without further ado then, ladies and gents, we are Green N Racing here in Donington Park for the second time today, and looking like a very strong start by the front row and a very strong start by Just Boris to try and take things around the outside. Now he had acceleration on his side there up against Hayden Puttock. He looks like he got bumped around the corner. T. Whitey's around in the Aston Martin already down at Redgate. He said it was a strong grid he was up against and he just got squeezed there. We're not entirely sure exactly who was to blame for the situation, but T. Whitey's took the fall. Boris is down a few positions though as Puttock soars away with Honda. And spinning around, there goes Vermac as well. The Ferrari is around at Starkey's Bridge. It has all gone horribly, horribly wrong for Vermac. You can see right behind him is Regent. And our camera's focusing at the moment there. You can see just in the background, it looked like a little bit of a tap there between the two Ferraris. So we did expect that to happen coming into this race. Right now, Hayden Puttock leads. Wishful Winnings is up to 2nd and potentially looking to fight for the race lead. Boris is down to 3rd. Regent is up to 4th. Elite Cassie is up to 5th as well. So a very dramatic start, all things given. Right now, though, we're watching what looks to be the fight for the lead between Hayden Puttock and Wishful Winnings. What a pair we're seeing here for round 14 of the championship as Just Boris is taking a bit of a back seat. Yellow flags are out of turn 11. It's the 777 car of Hin Hin Pappy in the Ford Mustang that's took the fall at turn 11. Not entirely sure what's happened down the order there. As we can see a few cars piled behind it, it could very well be a racing incident on our hands there at turn 11 at the Melbourne Hairpin. We're back into green flag conditions out of turn 1. Hayden Puttock there, 0.7 of a second ahead of Wishful Winnings. Boris in 3rd by about 0.4 of a second. So could very well be looking at a fight for second place between Winnings and Boris over the course of the next couple of laps. We're 2 minutes in already, and it's been a very dramatic start, to say the least. Up into 4th position, mind you, as well, is Elite Cassie, who's managed to get up ahead and is now starting to drop region in the 420 Ferrari behind him. What a dramatic start we're seeing then. VSR Grizz there in 15th. Looking for 14th position off of Aussie as they head up towards Coppice on the inside. Still side by side, but he's got it nailed in. Smiler follows him through on their run down towards the S's. Boy Shea side by side with Funky Fish, another driver who appears to have damages there and has fallen down the order since lap 1. Looks to be damage over the nose of the 982 as we go heading through the S's. Boy Shea has a huge sway of oversteer as he gets overtaken by TYT. Let's try and get back on board then what the state of affairs is up towards second place. As you can see, Just Boris is already looking to stage an assault for second on Wishful Winnings. We'll stay on board then with Just Boris as we go heading down into Redgate in the fight for second. ETE Giles emerging from the pit lane, so he was also caught up in some kind of issue. So the way things stand at the moment, Just Boris will be Season 7's champion. All he has to do is make it to the checkered flag. There is the deadline for Just Boris. If he wants to be the champion, he has to finish this race. Not that I think he'll have many issues with it at the moment, but he is on the back foot in his fight for second up against Wishful Winnings. The 999 hasn't seen third place in a long, long time. Down the order as well, Regent now drops behind Soviet Mario to make 6th position. We're watching the state of affairs going on up towards the front row. We'll go from the perspective of the attacking car, and we'll quickly cut across here to try and get the perspective of the defending car, if we can speak today. The screen just went entirely blue. Oh, I love when it just throws me off like that. Wishful Winnings then is our defending car for second place, but he stuck it very wide around turn 11. He's going to have to use all of the straight line speed the Mustang can give him down towards turn 12 if he wants to keep second place for his very own here on Just Boris. Round turn 12 we go. The McLaren tries to cut towards the late apex, can't get it in at turn 12 at Goddard's. Hayden Puttett continues to soar away. Cassie is closing in the Mercedes. Down through Redgate we go. It's Puttett from Wishful, from Boris, Cassie and Soviet in the top 5. Very, very close at the moment between second and third. Wishful Winnings starting to feel the pressure here with the 999 bearing down on him out of turn 4. You can see in the background as well, things getting very close towards the back of the top 10 with 7th and 8th getting ever closer to one another. We'll catch up with that in a moment's time though. We're up through Starkey's Bridge, watching over the rear spoiler of Wishful Winnings in the 23 Mustang. Out through turn 8, you can see he's taking things nice and sensibly here. He's not throwing caution to the wind. He knows he's got solid pace already. He didn't get a podium last race off of nothing. So all he has to do is just keep his head low and keep himself out of trouble. Don't try anything stupid and don't try to be a hero. This consistent performance has so far served him very, very nicely. Let's see then what the pressure test is going to look like on Wishful Winnings. One of the best positions to finish in-house at the moment on the podium. Doesn't want to be at the back of it to where he could be under siege very shortly thereafter by Cassie and Soviet. So he's going to hold on to second here for love nor money on Just Boris. Out of turn 12, makes it half a second at the moment. Of the two, was actually faster than Boris by about a 1/10 and 400ths of a second in that last lap. So the Mustang really stretching its legs here in round 14. Wishful Winnings is, you know, looking at it here, defending second quite nicely. He's got a lot of raw power under that right foot. He's keeping the McLaren at bay. While Boris can out-corner him, he can't outrun him. So really going by the adage at the moment of you can run but you can't hide. But Just Boris, he's still clawing away at the times here at Wishful Winnings to try and make a stage for second. We're already 7 minutes into this race. It's been a very dramatic start, just like round 13, so reciprocating that energy. We're seeing right now a fight for second, separated by half a second between Wishful Winnings and Just Boris. We'll catch up with that in a moment's time as we go round to the S's We want to try and take a look down the rest of the order as things continue to liven up inside the top 10. You can see here towards the back of the pack, things aren't exactly dull. There's contact, just as we caught it there, between Hin Hin Pappy and Dollarup. Damage round turn 8. ETE Gilles, I should remind you, is now down to 25th. So the standing order is that Boris has to finish this race in order to win Season 7. There was the contact down through turn 8. We're now on board with Soviet Mario just at the back of our top 5 there. As you can see in the background, Wade Nater and Blue Frog looking to go side by side shortly. They're looking to battle things out. The 982's in trouble down at turn 11. Yellow flags are out for Funky Fish, his second incident of today on this race. The Aston already had damages from before. Now things look to have gotten worse for the 982 as he makes his way down to start lap 5. Watching here with Soviet as he slowly eyes up a move on Cassie. He's about 1.5 seconds away. He's going to have to start thinking about a defense very soon on Regent. If we look around the field, Taz and Antion side by side now. There was an incident down at turn 4 in the last race between these two. Let's see, watching out of turn 7 at McLean's. He's gotten things very nice and clean in that run. And with Grizz looking on the inside of Antion, it's a very close competition here for 12th position. Taz has quite the defensive performance to put up here against Antion if he wants to hold on to 12th position. The Ferrari, miraculously, in something I have never seen in my time as a commentator, is looking to very nearly outrun a Ford. The battle of the horses here. The prancing horse meets the galloping Mustang. Never before have I seen this. Antion nearly puts it side by side round turn 11, looking for a switchback. It's contact between the two. That's the second time today these two have clashed heads at Donington. Now heading down into turn 12. Antion tries for a false dive bomb there. Taz holds middle of the road. He's got a little bit more momentum than the Ferrari. So now it's V8 versus V6 on the run down towards turn 1. We'll get a look back up inside our top 10 as I do get the impression things have changed since we've last paid attention to it. But right now we are totally lasered in on this fight here for 12th position. These two already got a little bit of history on this track, courtesy of round 13's incident down at turn 4. Taz, against his own intuition, came back into this race after saying, you know, this was my last one. I'm down and out on this. I'm not going to compete in the next round. He's gone against that intuition and has come back onto the grid with both arms swinging for 12th position. Doing so rather mightily as well. Up through turn 7 he goes. Antion still on his tail. Grizz is looking for a position on Antion. It's 3 cars in all for 12 as we head towards McLean's and Coppice. Grizz goes wide at turn 8. We'll catch up with these two in a moment's time here as we recount the standing order. Hayden Puttock leads with the fastest lap. Wishful Winnings in second with Boris only 4/10 of a second behind while we were going back on board. That fight for second is side by side with Antion and Taz. Where does the penny drop in this fight? Antion's up ahead. He who dares wins there. And it looks like it's a 3 abreast drag race down towards Melbourne. Grizz to the inside. Goes deep. Through goes Antion. Through goes Taz. Through goes Smiler. Almost a big bit of contact between the pair of them there out of turn 11. Whitey right behind them as well. So having a look at this fight here between these two for second, it's Wishful Winnings and Just Boris fighting for second. Behind them as well is Elite Cassie and Soviet Mario down the order as well. We can see Regent, and behind him there is the Blue Frog, who's now up ahead of Wade Nater. These two have shared in a phenomenal comeback drive today. Twiglet inside the top 10 with Lexus. And the number 96 is sharing in a fantastic drive in round 14. Better late than never here at Donington. Rounding out our top 10 is VSR Pete in the number 77 McLaren. Right behind him is Oatsy in one of the 2 leading Aston Martins in this championship. Of course, Pete's 3rd in the championship for silver. Looking to make things closer by the end of this championship. We'll be taking that all the way to Suzuka on this trajectory between the 2. And I dare say between the 3. VSR Antion in 12th then, up ahead now of Grizz and Taz. Further down the line as well, we can see it side by side between Smiler and Taz through turn 8. The Porsche getting a little bit elbows out. Following him through is T. Whitey in the Aston Martin. Down towards the S's. That's got to be rough there. A few positions lost for Taz. He's down to 16th. Whitey's up and looking to take things further towards Smiler. It's nearly side by side. He was putting it front to rear. He was looking for the inside line, whether there was one or not. Now we can see Taz looking to strike back on T. Whitey and VSR Smiler, TYT to the inside of the Aston Martin. I must say, for what is his third race today in this championship, this is remarkable stuff by TYT in the number 67 Aston. So he's up to what I believe now is 14th. We see in the background there, Taz goes wide, loses position out to Vermack and Aussie. Tyler Vermack also on a comeback drive at the moment after his spin out on lap 1. Looks to be up to 17th, down towards turn 1 we go. Taz down to 18th, Abok 19th, Hin Papi in 20th, Boyche in 21st. Right behind him, the twin car there of Jayco 14 in 22nd. VSR Dollar up 23rd, ETE Gilles in 24th, Funky Fish in 25th. Looking very shortly at the fight for second place. Let's go on board then, because Boris is, as a matter of fact, up to second. And we've missed that move, but we might be able to catch here the fight back by Wishful Winnings. Going down into turn 11, it was an odd line by just Boris, one that Wishful Winnings is able to capitalise on there, getting a little bit more momentum than the McLaren. A little bit of push and pull, concertina between the pair of them. Out through turn 12 we go. You can see just the difference in line between Boris and Wishful. In that third sector, it's where he's able to make up so much time. On that last lap, it was a 126.647 to a 126.942. That's a 3/10 deficit in the last lap gone. Just Boris, though he might be up to second, has got just over half the race length to try and close the gap to Hayden Potok, who has been smooth sailing in the 313. So having a look around the field again, Wade Nater still closing on the back of the Blue Frog, who is in himself hunting down Regent. We're just quickly seeing here VSR Pete having to take a drive-through penalty in the number 77. He's dropped 10 positions, may even be 11 there, with Boyche creeping into frame in the number 7. Grizz in 12th for the moment with TYT right behind him. TYT could be hunting down his driver of the day, and that is remarkably quick progress as well, given it's his third race in the championship. Making his debut in Laguna Seca. This has been remarkable by the number 67 to really put on some theatrics. Of course, round 13's driver of the day undeniably goes to the Blue Frog for that move down at the S's. That is a second to none stuff. Now we see that Elite Cassie has got the leg up on Wishful Winnings. So in a sort of reverse order of how things panned out during round 13, the Mercedes is up, the Mustang is down. And down by some way. He was 2 seconds faster over the course of that last lap here. So even though we're trying to take a look around to keep things lively, we keep missing out on the action inside the top 5. That 999 is on the warpath to hunt down the 313. You can see he's already made time there ahead of Cassie and Wishful as they both make their way around turn 4. You can see Wishful goes deep through turn 4, the old hairpin. So Soviet Mario could be eyeing up an easy position here on his hands if Wishful keeps making those mistakes. TYT now up and ahead of Grizz in the 67. We want to try and get on board then with Soviet as he begins his trajectory to hunt down Wishful Winnings' Mustang. We're quickly just seeing here Abok and Hin Papi close to one another down into the old hairpin. They're through that with relative ease. On board then with Soviet Mario as we see right in front of him. It's side-by-side action between Elite Cassie and Wishful Winnings. It could be Three's Company because here comes Soviet through turn 11. Makes it Three's Company there, is hanging on to the back end of what is a 3-car fight for third position. Nearly makes it side-by-side. Wishful is trying something, dare I say Wishful, through turn 12. From the perspective of 5th, we're looking closer towards that fight of 4th at the moment as he eyes up the car in front of him. Wishful Winnings as he continues to trip over his efforts to get past Elite Cassie and back onto the podium. Soviet Mario is slowly creeping in on this fight here. Looks to make it a third element very, very soon. We're still on board then. The number 26 Mustang got a very clear line of sight of the battle of third in front of him. See side by side up Starkeys. It's going to take something quite bold here out of Wishful to retake third. He's gone wide out of turn 7. He's nearly got switchbacked, but he's up into third. We're watching with Soviet Mario as he gets front row tickets to this brilliant fight on the podium. Meanwhile, he's eyeing up whoever falls into his iron sights next, and now it becomes the Mercedes of Elite Cassie NL. Try as he may, couldn't hold on to the podium at this leg of the race. Goes very deep through the S's. It could be a move up to fourth here from the Mustang of Soviet Mario. We go out of the S's down towards Melbourne. They're side by side. Elite Cassie's defenseless on his way in. Earlier on the brakes was Soviet Mario, who knows he's going to have to try and cut the Mercedes off. The Mercedes tries, the Mercedes fails. What a move then. We are seeing inside the top 5. Proper scrapping here by 2 Mustangs and a Merc. Right behind them, the Ferrari of Regent looks to make it extra company. Blue Frogs on the horizon with Wade Nater on his tail. This is a proper ensemble here inside the top 10. Elite Cassie goes for the inside though at turn 4. Is trying absolutely everything in his pockets here to take back 4th position. Has got it nailed out of turn 1. Now makes turn 2. Turn 3 is next. The crane of curves makes turn 4 at the old hairpin. This is absolutely mega stuff between Soviet and Cassie. Never have I seen 2 drivers go hell for leather like this. Up through turn 7, you can see them pushing their machines now to the absolute upper limits. Twitching and struggling over every corner. The Mercedes and the Mustang are being pushed way beyond what the manufacturer guidebook tells them to. Not that either of these two could care. In through the S's we go. It's a big snap there. Good correction by Soviet, but he's lost ground to Cassie. 0.4 of a second between the Mercedes and the Mustang down towards the Melbourne hairpin. "11 minutes left to go. It has been an exciting second half of the sprint round today here at Donington Park. Rounds 13 and 14 of VSR Phoenix Season 7 have given us an absolute treat. And it looks like that fight for 4th is just starting to simmer down. Soviet's now having to consider his odds here in a fight for 5th, defending from the approaching Ferrari of Regent in the number 420. Catch up with these, with this one in particular a little bit later on as we take a look around the top 10. We see VSR Twiggler now on a lonely drive, separated from Pete, who rounded out our top 10 earlier on. It's now Oatsy who makes 10th position with Aston Martin. The way things are going in the Silver Championship, it is looking oh so unimaginably close. Whereas in the Gold Championship, the standard's been set. And despite being in what I believe is now, I think 23rd, might be 25th position at the moment. We take a look here on the charts. Whereabouts Giles is 23rd at the moment. With that standard being set, all Boris has to do now is cross the line in 10 minutes time from where he is on track. And that championship in gold is absolutely his to claim. He'll be a new champion here in VSR. A new name added to the long-growing chart. And taking a look through those previous champions over the course of the last 6 seasons as we head towards the end of the gold runnings of round 7. We see in the background as well Antion and Whitey looking to battle soon round the S's. We'll be going on board with them very soon. Recounting our champions though, back in season 1 it was VSR Pete in the number 77, which we saw earlier round out the top 10 of this race. That won our first ever champion here in VSR. And in the second iteration of VSR Phoenix GT, it was the number 982 of VSR Funky Fish. Then in season 3, it was VSR Chris. Season 4 saw Fast Fanatical rise through the ranks, taking the 52 to the top step. In season 5, it was ETE Giles, one of our season regulars here in the 57 Mustang, of which we've seen plenty of over the course of the season, even picking up a race win in the last couple of rounds as well. It was VSR Chris is the only driver in VSR history to take multiple championships, taking his second in season 6. But right now, we're looking at the precipice of season 7's champion, currently chasing down this driver on screen, Hayden Puttock. As this is the driver to be at the moment. 8 minutes and 30 seconds is what separates the 999 from just another competitor in gold to season 7's champion. History is about to be made here for just Boris. So having a look around our field again, let's see what's going on towards the back of the top 10. Blue Frog slowly gaining ground on Regent, who is in turn slowly gaining ground on Soviet. Wade Nater following all of them through in the wake of this. Twiglet just in the background there by 3.5 seconds. VSR Pete, previous time champion here in VSR. Now down in 17th position after that drive-through penalty, is making quick progress to try and claw back a top 15. He's got 8 minutes to get that done. He's 3.5 seconds from Hinpapi in 16th position. On the pace he's been on, it is possible for him to catch. We see at the moment, we want to try and get on board with this as well. We said we get on board with TYT and Antion, but we're going to have to try and get on board as we see something oh so unimaginably close. And that's the second time I've said that today. I need to stop relying on verbal crutches, but despite that, Soviet and Regent are unimaginably close to one another. 0.3 of a second becomes 2. 0.2 of a second becomes potentially 1 as we head to turn 8. You see real pressure now in the drive from Regent. He's pushing that car to the absolute as he hunts down a potential look at 5th place. Meanwhile, Elite Cassie has dropped back and has now become a third element in what is further beyond this in-turn fight for 5th. A fight for 4th, I should say, not for 6th. Just the amount of action on track today has totally frazzled my brain. We're still on board then with Regent. In the background there, Wade Nater goes wide out of turn 12, loses some time to Blue Frog. 6.5 minutes left to go then. 313 still leads, the 999 still in second. Wishful Winnings still on the podium. Right now we're looking at the rest of our top 6 with Regent right on the back of Soviet Mario and Elite Cassie. Speaking of, let's see finally our extra part of the battle here is we're actually watching from Tyler Vermack's perspective as he's eclipsed by the cars in front of him. We wanted to try and get a look at the battle between TYT and VSR Antion, but Tyler Vermack has also become a third party in this, or so we thought. It's a trip onto the grass there, a snap of oversteer out of Redgate. You can see the fight in front of him. We want to try and get on board with these two as TYT has put on a properly solid performance today, I must say. He'll be looking at a driver of the day vote in my books by any means. That Aston has really been moving heaven and earth here in round 14 of the championship and is giving it absolutely everything in his fight up against VSR Antion. Let's quickly see what the state of affairs is looking like then, as we've got side-by-side battles at the moment here, right one button click away, so we'll be able to keep things very nice and snappy for you here at home. As we're seeing the fight here of 4th position, Elite Cassie is looking to defend from the approaching Mustang of Soviet Mario. These two have shared in fantastic side-by-side action thus far. Same story with Wishful Winnings up ahead. You see here the battle for 11th still boiling over. They're going down towards turn 1 at the moment. It's TYT versus VSR Antion. Tyler Vermack after that snap out at turn 1, of which I believe TYT very nearly replicated there. Set him some distance away before the end of the last lap, but now he's back with it and looking to hunt down TYT for his own position. This is the fight for 12th position you're watching at the moment from the 67's perspective. Tyler Vermack is right behind him there in the number 22. Looking back up towards 4th position. It's going to have to be quite abrupt jump cuts between the two here, as it could boil over on either side of it at any given point. I think we've just caught it here for the fight of 4th. It is Achilles' heel biting him again. Elite Cassie goes a little bit deep over the S's. It invites Soviet in to come and play for 4th position. The Mustang's up on the inside at turn 11 and up to 4th. Can Cassie fight this one back? The 22, I should say there's been an incident. It's at turn 8. Whitey and Tyler Vermack are in trouble. So that is a real pity. That's the end of that fight. So we're going to have to stay on board with our fight of 4th position. This is from the perspective of the defending car, Elite Cassie, in the Mercedes. I've got to say, that is a real bitter end for TYT and Tyler Vermack. That was looking to be a very strong battle going down into lap 17. We will just quickly check in to see. They're still going, so I've been proven absolutely incorrect. You can take them out of the fight, but you can't take the fight out of them. We're going to stay quickly on board with the fight of fourth here. The consequences could be dire for Elite Cassie, trying to hold on to his top 4 position. Soviet is pressuring him every step of the way. The more these two continue to flounder over one another, the more it invites in Regent, Blue Frog and Wadenator to all come and have a go. Soviet's looking to make this nearly side-by-side action down towards the S's. Cassie has been caught out plenty of times before in this Mercedes at this section of the track. Doesn't get fooled again as we go heading out of turn 10. I must say, this is a proper grand exit for Donington. Round 14 is giving us what looks to be a fantastic exiting battle. Still in it for fourth there, even after a deep run through the Melbourne hairpin. Now to Goddard's. Soviet's right alongside, and on the back end, I should say, of Elite Cassie. You can see it's a 5-car train in all now. 5 different cars in all. Cassie from Soviet. Regent from Blue Frog from Wadenator. It's Mercedes from Ford, from Ferrari, from BMW, from McLaren. Here on lap 19. All in control of 4th position. This is spectacular stuff. We'll just quickly see that TYE is now up and ahead of Tyler Vermack. I would still keep it on the charts for TYE to be getting driver of the day, but you're looking at a very healthy handful of potential candidates for that position today, as these lot are giving us some proper theatrics here to the end of round 14. A minute and a half left to go. There'll be one more lap on the horizon for these drivers. Just Boris and Tyler Vermack, our leading pair, are making their way out of turn 11. They'll have one more lap running then before the end of this race. There's proper theatrics there. Regent goes across the chicane at the S's, drops behind the Blue Frog, who's now up to 6th. The leader's on the final lap, so we're now in for our last runnings here at Donington Park. We want to try and stay on with these guys as long as possible. Hayden Puttock, meanwhile, in the 313 has still got a confident lead. There's contact between the pair for 4th position. Soviet's up to 3rd. Elite Cassie collects Blue Frog, nearly runs him into the pit lane. Through goes Wadenator and Regent. They're up extra positions now to 5th and 6th. This is a bitter end to the fight for Elite Cassie. Side by side with the Blue Frog as we go out of turn 1. We're going to have to try and catch on board with the drivers who have now profited from this sudden mistake. Wadenator's up to the top 5. Soviet's clear into 4th. Regent's up into 6th. Right now, the Blue Frog is pressuring Elite Cassie. We don't know which way to look here. It's nigh impossible to give you a clear view of exactly everything that is unfolding here in a dramatic final flourish here at Donington in round 14. There's yellow flags up ahead. Who is it that's been caught out? It's one of the McLarens towards the back there. The number, I think that's the number 14. That's Jaco 14 that was caught out between 7 and 8. We want to try and get on board with our front-running pair here as soon as possible, because getting down towards the line here with the timer running flat, where the checkered flags are now being flown for Hayden Puttock on another career win. A fantastic finish for the Honda of Hayden Puttock. And looking behind him, it's going to be once more a very, very bittersweet feeling for Just Boris. A slow roll down to the line. Is he out of fuel there? Running all the way down to the line. Wishful winnings is actually going to potentially get him to the line here. I think Boris has run out of fuel. He's forgotten that there's still a little bit of a run to the line. Boris finishes 3rd, and that will be enough, ladies and gents, to mathematically rule him out of being overtaken in the championship. What you are looking at right in front of your very eyes, ladies and gents, is the Season 7 champion here in VSR Phoenix. That is truly beautiful stuff to see. Just Boris then is Season 7's gold champion. Down towards the line, it's 4th for Soviet, 5th for Wadenator, and you can see he's really reveling in the moment. Regent up to 6th. Cassie drops down to 7th by 0.2 of a second to the line. Fighting all the way to the checkered flag then. Blue Frog was behind him by 0.7. VSR Twiglet and Oatsy make it to the top 10, 9th and 10th. absolute drama towards the end. But what a feeling that's got to be for Just Boris, the gold champion here in VSR Phoenix Season 7. That's that wrapped up in a nice neat bow for the 999, as he appears to be struggling to doing a donut. Not entirely sure. I mean, it's a unique celebration. I'll give him that. There we go. There you can see Grizz not too far away from him either, celebrating alongside the 999, Season 7's champion for gold. Bear in mind, we've still got 2 more championships left to conclude here, so don't think that we're done with the theatrics at all here in TRTN's coverage of VSR Phoenix Season 7. We've still got 2 more rounds. We've got Nürburgring and we've got Suzuka and we've got bronze and silver to wrap up. So do stay close to this channel for the next 2 weeks. We've still got business left to attend to here in this fantastic championship, but what a result that's been over the course of the last 13 weeks. Actually, sorry, 12 weeks if you count these sprint rounds. 12 weeks and 14 rounds of racing for Just Boris. That has really, really got to be quite one of the best feelings in the world. So we'll get a full view of our rundown here, as I think we're just waiting on the final grid timer then, since everyone is in the pits that needs to be there and everyone else has crossed the checkered flag. See there, VSR Grizz, very enthusiastic. Hayden Puttock takes another career win with the fastest lap as well. What a result by the 313. And Just Boris takes the gold championship on the podium. Wishful Winnings finishes 2nd, Soviet 4th, Wade Nater 5th, Regent 6th, Cassie 7th, Blue Frog 8th, Twiglet 9th, and Oatsy in the top 10. Not to take away from that from Hayden Puttock, that was a dominant performance by Honda today. A real comeback drive out of round 13 into round 14. And Puttock's God, he's already wrapped up his business there. He's already left the session. He's gone and won. He's done what he wanted to do. And he's off now to take a nice long break before the next round. Just Boris, though, I think he's going to be taking his time with this one. Absolutely well done. So that's the end of the line for us here in Donington Park. What a pair of rounds that has been. I do hope to see more of those on the horizon. That is really going to be quite an act to follow for Nürburgring, but it's an endurance round, so keep your hopes up for that. I think there's definitely going to be a little bit more of an unshackled drive in our gold grid now that that championship's been decided. This is when you get to see a little bit of the chaotic drives start to appear towards the end of the championship, but that, honestly, what a fantastic result we've seen today, and what a myriad of battles we've seen across Donington over the course of 2 short 30-minute races. Short but sweet. That's the real pleasure of covering these sprint races. That's all from us then on TRTN. For those of you joining us later on this week, we'll be going to Kyalami for the next round of the NLRL Sunday League in Season 2. And if you're joining us from VSR Phoenix, you'll be joining us next Wednesday then for the penultimate round of the championship, round 15 at the Nürburgring, for our last endurance round of Season 7. A very well done today then for our drivers, and a very well done today for the gold champion of Season 7, Just Boris. And that's all from us here on TRTN. Good night.